Do fans want to get along with creators? Now, this is going to be an interesting post question, and I'm going to try and make my point really quickly because I have a feeling this is going to be one of those gut reaction videos that people are going to be pissed about quick, and then they'll wander off. But I hope you listen to the end. Hey everybody, this is Perch. I'm posing this as a question, and I'm hoping people will think about it rather than immediately have a gut reaction. So this is an open question, and I think there's not a just a one size fits all answer here. I think this is something that I would urge everybody to just think about, absorb, kind of think about how it relates to them. And it's simply this: if you are a fan and you find that a lot of creators are blocking you, not block bots, which I've talked about before, I think are misguided and wrong, but I mean actually blocking or seem to be getting pissed off at you. I think there should come at least some level of self kind of awareness or self realization. Are you doing something nutty that's causing these people to disengage with you? And I think you ought to ask yourself a couple questions. Number one should be, do I care? Do I care that I'm getting engagement or not? Because if you don't care, then it doesn't really matter if you're getting a lot of creators, a lot of people in the comic industry to block or move away from you. The other thing I think to ask yourself is, how do I sound? Do I sound like a kind of reasonable person trying to have a dialogue, or do I sound like a lunatic kind of saying the same thing over and over again? There's a guy, and it hurt me to do it, but he was following me for a while. I followed him, and then I would notice in the evenings, and I didn't know if it was a getting drunk kind of scenario or kind of what went on, but the late evening conversations tended to be, for lack of a better word, fairly spicy or salty, if you will. And then there'd oftentimes be an apology in the morning. But I noticed as more and more time went on, a couple things happened. One, he would apologize or kind of say, whoops, I was out of line there, less and less often. And also, he was falling into a crowd that was very much kind of cheering on, taking the paint out on creators. And I'll say at this point, I believe there is a group of people that is so fed up with the way comics is right now, rightly or wrongly. I'm not going to get into whether they're correct in the assertions or incorrect, because I think there's some of both. And the same thing can be said with independent comic creators, with Indiegogo people, with Kickstarter, with Comicsgate, with all the different little factions out there, with whatever kind of drama is going on. And by the time this video rolls out, maybe they're going to be best friends again. I don't know, between the Ethan Van Skyvers and the Mike Millers and the Doug Tenaples and the Nurkish and just all these different groups that dislike each other. It seems to shift around a lot. Sometimes people, settle on kind of one person, one faction, one friend to support for whatever the reasons. Maybe right, maybe wrong. Who knows? It's up to them, right? And then they'll cheer on discontent. So for example, I posted something along the lines of, "Hey, I looked at the way the Earthworm Jim Indiegogo project, when that Kickstarter, whatever it was, I don't remember now, how it was delivered, and that packaging was pretty nice. It looked professional." And I had an immediate reaction of a handful of people going, "Yeah, he's one of us now. Screw EVS." I'm like, "What? I don't know what EVS has to do with this." I was coming into this completely blind. Somehow I'd missed the falling out or whatever happened there between the two. And then I had the other group going, "How dare you, support that anti-gay Doug Tenable?" I'm like, I have no idea where I am right now. I'm standing there. I think the box looks nice. I'm going to go back to the packaging looks professional and nice. I think that's the ground I'm going to stand on right now. That's all I'm going to do. Package looks nice. But it goes back to I think that there's some people who just enjoy that fight. They show up to Twitter every day to have that dynamic, have that drama, have that whatever you want to call it. They show up for that party. And you can say the party's right, you can say it's wrong, you can say it's stupid, you can say any of those things. But it's everybody's right to engage with social media the way they want to engage. If they want to engage this way, cool. If they don't, cool. I mean, it's up to them. Everybody's got their own thing. But every action has a reaction or has consequences. For some reason, I picked up in recent days that the phrase, yes, you can have free speech, but free speech does not mean freedom from consequences. Somehow that statement has become controversial, or I've heard people say that's a anti-SJW or that's an SJW. There's always somebody's got like, people who are saying that are this or that. No, it's just common sense. You can say things, but when you say things or when you do things, there's a reaction, and that reaction can be any number of things, right? None of us have the power to just say things in a complete vacuum and everybody just must take it, as it is. It doesn't work that way. There's going to be a reaction to everything. And then there's going to be a reaction to that reaction, and on it goes. This is called a circle of life. I'm hearing the Lion King music right now. But anyway, that's what's going on. But I often see confusion on the part of fans as to why is this creator pissed off at me, or why did I get blocked and everything. And sometimes there's a genuine mystery behind it, like with block bots. You show up one day and you're blocked. You never engaged with this creator in your life, and you have no idea how you got there. And you can trace it all the way back to maybe somebody assumed you or something. I know I got put on a block bot list when I said that I didn't believe that comic companies had quotas for hiring women, and they said that's a misogynistic point of view. To this day, I still can't put that one together. I would love for somebody to sit down with me and say, "Yeah, Perch, this is how people got from point A to point B." I still have no clue. If anything, when I posted, I don't think that women, there are quotas to hire women at comic companies. I was assuming that I'd get a lot of crap from the, quote unquote, the Comicsgate crowd. I was assuming the anger and aggression I get was from them, because that's a frequent talking point on a lot of YouTube channels, is that there's quotas. I don't believe that there are. I have evidence to suggest. But I got more of the crap from the other side as saying that's a misogynistic way of looking at things. And I don't get it. I wish somebody could explain that one to me. I've never been able to understand it. Anyway, but sometimes the reasons are mysterious. Sometimes they're not mysterious. Like this guy I'm mentioning, that every night he would go and he would just take the piss out on various people. And one of the most fascinating ones is I'm having a conversation with Brian Edward Hill, who I think the majority of estimations is somebody who engages very nicely with fans. He will listen. I think he's a really stand-up guy, and he was the first big comic pro to do an interview with me, and I will always remember that as he's willing to take that chance and talk to a guy with a crazy poo avatar. So, gotta hand it to him. But I'm having this conversation with Hill, and this guy comes in and immediately starts calling him a SJW cuck. And Hill's like, "Hey, dude, don't really want to engage with that, but I'm just gonna kind of ignore it." And then the guy starts like, "How dare you ignore me? I'm a paying customer, and you are taking us for granted." And I'm watching Hill go, "Dude, I don't know what to tell you here. Please don't make me mute you, please." And Hill is like bending over backward. I got a lot of respect for Hill out of that scenario, because it was like Hill was working hard to not get pissed off and annoyed. This guy just would go at it and at it. Finally, myself and others are going, "Hey, dude, shut the F up. You're just being a jerk here. You're not helping any case." And he flames out, just kind of spurgs out, and is like, "You're all SJWs, blah 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 blah." And there's a handful of people who are like cheering him on, like, "Yeah, dude, you tell him." It's like, anyway, I think that guy then a couple weeks later is like, "Why am I blocked by so many people?" It's like, well, here's evidence A and evidence B and exhibit C, and this is why, right here. This is it. And I think if you get blocked again and you're doing this stuff on purpose and it's how you like to engage in social media, hey, go have fun, go at it, do your thing. But it's always a little bit surprising to me when I see people engage this way and then act surprised, like, how did this happen? Well, it's like that meme with the guy who shoots the other person on the couch and is like, how could this have happened? I think my general policy for life is kind of simple. I think you should engage on social media, on Twitter, on whatever, on YouTube, in the same way that you would engage in real life. I think that you should have a similar behavior, similar attitude. In fact, in many cases, in this weird backwards way, I feel like social media should almost be more polite. And many of you may be going, what in the world is he talking about? I mean that, with social media, you don't have the ability of reading kind of facial expressions or having context or a lot of other things that go into real life communication. So I think, if anything, the burden of communication is higher on social media to try to, be digestible, be understandable, be polite, be concise. I think that's you have more of a burden to do those things, and a lot of people don't. Um, so I just think you should be the way, if you go to a convention and you're meeting one of these creators in person and you're walking up to the table and you're introducing yourself and you want to have a conversation, you wouldn't gotta go up and say, "Hey, you SJW cuck." You wouldn't say that to somebody. I mean, or maybe you would. I mean, the crazy part is, I wonder if some of these people in real life would go to a convention and say something like this. That you would get escorted from the premises. It goes back to that freedom of speech is not freedom from a reaction. Um, but most people don't. Either they chicken out, or they say to themselves, I do not have the interest in engaging with these creators who I dislike, in a civilized way, or in a civilized wrong way, in a polite way. I'm mad at this person, and I'm not going to hide my anger. So I'm not going to go to the convention because I don't feel like being thrown out by police. So I'm just not going to engage. Screw it. And I think frankly, that's a reasonable behavior. If you know that this is just going to piss you off, don't don't do it. It goes to that other video I did. Just shut the up. Just shut up. If know yourself, I guess is the key there. It's a weird time because social media has opened up access to lots and lots of people, and nobody is acting in a perfect way. I've had this disagreement heavily with a very, very popular writer where I'll say, "Hey, I'm frustrated with the creator, or I'm frustrated with this behavior," and I'll get a kind of response going, "Creators take a lot of crap," and I agree. I agree. Creators do take a lot of crap, and I agree that a lot of that crap is crap, and I agree that people do not behave in the best way, like everything I've said before. But I also don't think that gives people free reign to just behave the same way back. And I'll use the Brian Hill example. Brian Hill has had people come at him as complete irrational maniacs, and I've watched Hill either decide for himself, "Hey, I'm going to engage in a polite way back," or, "Hey, I'm not in the mood to deal with this guy at all. I'm just, you hit me on the wrong day, so I'm going to mute, I'm going to block, and I'm just not going to deal with this BS today." Um, I think that's all fine. You don't see Hill getting on there and like just throwing mud all around and trying to smack people. You don't see him writing these passive aggressive, nonsensical things. You don't see, again, the worst of the behavior that drives me absolutely nuts is when somebody blocks somebody and then they go under their alt account, or they reveal the post and they take screenshots and then they post it in. They proceed to mock the person from behind their wall. I just think that's the most cowardly possible way of engaging in communication, and it shouldn't be done. So I'm not, no part of what I'm saying. And by the way, anybody who's going to be real pissed off at this video has long since abandoned it and done the downvote and told me I'm an idiot. But I don't think that that's the way to engage with people. I think that the street does run both ways. And I think whether you're Dan Slott or whether you're Richard Meyer, we all have a responsibility not to go out and be jerks to each other, at least as much as we can be. And again, I use a Brian Hill example. If he believes that tonight's not the night where I have the patience to engage politely and just say, "Hey, that's just your opinion, dude." If tonight's not the night where I have that patience, then I will block, I will mute, I will just move on. And I'm not going to flame out and run a giant bot, or I'm not going to insult somebody from behind a wall. I'm not going to take shots trying to use somebody as an example. I'm just going to move on with my life. I think that's healthy, and I think that's healthy for everyone, wherever you fall in this spectrum. But I think it starts with asking yourself, what are you here to do? Are you here to have a conversation? Are you here to have some fun? Are you here to troll people and that's what's fun for you, no judgment. I think when I say those things, sometimes people are like, oh, you're saying that, if I troll somebody, I'm a bad person. Not necessarily. It's your game, pal. It's your it's your place. You can be whoever you want to be, and I'm not putting judgment on that. I'm just saying that you should at least know the game you're playing. There's, I think, a lot of people who show up to the table and they believe that they're playing checkers and they're really playing bingo. You gotta play the game. You gotta know what game you're playing. Otherwise, you just look like a crazy person. And you know, no judgment. Just saying. Um, there you go. Uh, hey, what do you think? Do you have an opinion on this topic? Do you think? I do think. Look, I'm just going to say it. I think there are a number of fans at this point who they're more fans of the exciting drama and conflict that comes into the world around comics than the comics themselves. And maybe you're quick to say, well, if the comics were more exciting, maybe they'd be more into that. Maybe. I mean, sure, that's a reasonable theory, and in some cases, probably true. But I think that it's just important to recognize what people are showing up to the party for, and then knowing that from yourself is a big deal too. But what do you think? What are your comments? Does this dynamic exist within people? How do you see it? Would love to know your thoughts, your feelings on the matter. Leave a comment below. Like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at Comic Perch, and thanks for listening.